Why, hello there, and welcome to another Alpha Draft commercial. My favorite Alpha Esports Fantasy draft service would be Alpha Draft. On Alpha Draft, even if your certain favorite player will die a lot, as long as he plays well and consistently, then he can get assists and kills and get you a lot of points. So, Freeze, the AD carry of Renegades, I think has to be one of the most unlucky Western pro players to ever compete in League of Legends. When you consider this is a guy who for 3 straight years, from Season 3, Season 4, Season 5, and now coming into Season 6, has been a consistently good player, one of the better European players at his role AD carry, and at times one of the best. And then you look at what he's managed to accomplish. So twice he's been in the playoffs, eliminated in the first round both times. Twice he's been on teams that had terrible records, right now in NALCS, and then last split in EU LCS, and were almost certain to get relegated. And then he's been twice stuck in the challenger scene, despite being such a good player. In the last season split, he was even a very good player, one of the best in the West and one of the best in Europe at his position, and yet he was stuck in complete elo hell. Then you consider some of the teammates he's played with. He's played with Mithy, now a fantastic player on Origin, considered arguably the best support player in the West now that Yellow Star's having difficulties on TSM. He's played with Nukeduck. Nukeduck's a guy where he's gradually built himself back up, and now he's a member of one of the top EU teams, Vitality. He's played with Bjergsen, a guy who obviously has since gone on to win 2 LCS titles and be one of the top Western players, arguably the best at his role, go to Worlds twice. Meanwhile, Freeze is just sat at home still. Now, what's interesting is, it's not just that Freeze has had a lot of bad luck, but it does seem to almost have followed this like curse-esque pattern where it never just presents itself as he's on a bad team, the team's got no chance, things are going to go badly, they start badly, they go badly in the middle, they're bad at the end, on to the next bad thing. It's not cursed like that. It's cursed because it gives him the illusion of hope so many times, and he gets into scenarios with players and teams and situations where he thinks, hey, I could win, this could work out, and things are going well for himself personally. Then the curse manifests, things go to shit, and it never ends up well for him. So let's look at this guy's career. So in early 2013, he was playing in a team called Samurais in Jeans. And this team, on paper, pretty solid team. It was Freeze, Cotton X was the jungler, they had Extinct as the mid laner, and Extinct was someone who the year before in 2012 had been one of the best EU mids, and they had Unlimited as his support player, who obviously later on's gone on to be a good player, a decent player at least. They had Youngbuck as his top laner, also gone on to be a long-time LCS top laner. They played in the promotion series against Copenhagen Wolves, admittedly the best of the teams in the promotion series, which is Bjergsen and all those Danish guys, Svenskeren, etc. And they lost in 4 games, and the team just broke up immediately. So even though it was an okay team, the team just breaks up immediately. Right after the team breaks up, he goes off with Extinct, and he forms Heimerdinger's Colossi, this team that's playing in the challenger scene, and it's Yamato Cannon top lane, Meluno, former jungler of Extinct in Curse EU in 2012, playing as the jungler, Extinct mid lane, Freeze as the AD carry. Then they get Mithy from the Spanish scene as a support, former Bloodline Champions player, and they very quickly turn out to be one of the best challenger teams with a lot of promise. They win 6 challenger tournaments. They go to DreamHack Summer using a sub, JWoww, who would later that year go on to be highly touted as a rising star. They use him as a sub for Yamato Cannon, and they finished top 4. In the semi-finals, they had to play Copenhagen Wolves, which had Reckless as the AD carry at the time, widely considered to be the best of the Challenger Series teams, because obviously Reckless was LCS caliber, but couldn't play due to age, and they finished top 4. So, okay, all going well so far, right? Everyone's wondering what can happen with this team. A week after that LAN, the team just disbands, seemingly with no reason. In the summer split, the team that he'd lost to, Copenhagen Wolves, has now become NIP. And he gets recruited to join NIP along with Meluno, along with Extinct from Heimerdinger's Colossi. So he comes in to join in week 3 in NIP. Now, admittedly, yeah, the team's only 2-6 at this point in time. Things have been going badly. But he joins up. He's playing with Bjergsen now. Immediately, oh, and also Extinct's joined as the top laner, not the mid laner. But immediately, things turn around. They go like I think they went something like 6-1 over the next 3 weeks. Overall, they were 7-3 over this next period in time. They've won 70% of their games. Now things are going really well. Extinct, his top laner, is carrying. And at this point in time, the team's a really scary triple threat team. Extinct's carrying, doing very well on a variety of the top laners that were around at the time. Then you have Bjergsen in the mid laner on Assassins, bodying because that was the meta. And then Freeze is having some good games of his own, especially ones where he's playing on stuff like Varus and Caitlyn, where he's having really nice games, performing to a really nice level, playing as Draven. And so you're thinking, hey, this is a team that they have a chance to maybe finish top 4 this split. Maybe they're going to win the league even if they get to the playoff phase. This is like the hottest new team in Europe. Problem is, Extinct, this guy who's transitioned to top lane, is playing fantastically. Out of nowhere, just decides this isn't what I want to do with my life, and at the end of week 6, quits entirely. So off he goes. So they look around, and from solo queue, they get Mimer. Now, Mimer's a player who's been playing very well in solo queue. He's famed for his Rengar. People are like, oh, maybe he can do something when he comes in. Maybe he can replace Extinct well. Problem is, over the next few months, Rengar eventually gets disabled. A bunch of the champions that Mimer plays get nerfed a little bit, and he's left playing stuff like Zac, which does not go well. In fact, Rengar gets disabled something like 3 hours before the team has to play their playoff game against Gambit. Now, when they get... Here's part where the curse comes in as well. So Mimer was a player with potential, but he would only go on to show that potential a year later in his second split with Super Hot Crew in 2014. That's when he had his really breakout year, not the year before. He actually had a lot of trouble in this particular time. Meluno had been synergizing well with Extinct, who'd former mid laner, now top laner in this new team, but with Extinct gone, Meluno doesn't synergize well with Mimer, doesn't work that well with Bjergsen either. Meluno just falls off completely, and now the top side of the map's collapsed. But okay, fair enough, Bjergsen's still carrying, you still got Freeze, there's still a chance, right? Over the last 3 weeks, they still managed to go 6-4, so 60% win rate. They get into a tiebreaker for second, lose all the games, finish in 5th place. Because they're in 5th place, they have to play Gambit in the playoffs. But at this point in time, Gambit's been fairly streaky, but on the last week of the Super Week, they've really gotten it together. And so as a result, Gambit goes off to their boot camp. They have the famous Gambit boot camp. Come into the playoffs, body this NIP team. NIP team has to go to the 5th place decider. But 5th place decider is against Alternate, a team that had once led the league, but then had a massive collapse over the last few weeks. And in fact, the last week, the Super Week, had gone 0-5. So you're thinking, right, well, fair enough. NIP can beat this team. They'll stay in the league. They'll go forwards. Nope, they lose to Alternate. They get beaten fairly convincingly. And they're down into relegations for Season 4. But positive signs again. Off-season comes along. NIP signs Kevin, top laner of SK, Herkbot, jungler of SK. Now, Kevin had been the best player in SK at that point in time for that year, helping them get a 4th place in the spring split, and they'd been decent for some of the summer split. Herkbot had actually impressed many players with strong ganking, lots of pressure all over the map. So people are thinking, right, top laner, jungler, these fix the problems in the team. Stable, top laner, famously stable. Kevin, very consistent player. Herkbot, putting a lot of pressure on. This is going to be great with Bjergsen and Freeze. This is exactly what we need for this team. And you know what? We'll win the promotion match. Don't worry, we'll get back in. Not only that, but then, after Worlds, Froggen's come home and he's putting together this super team, which eventually becomes Alliance. But at the time, it's just the super team. And initially, he's using Alexich top lane, and then he has Shook, this monster from solo queue, as the jungle, obviously Froggen's mid lane, and then initially the bot lane is Freeze, and it's Edward, legendary support of Gambit, formerly Go Supeppa, still at the time, still a very strong player when he just come back to Gambit, and everyone's thinking, hey, this will be an interesting team, right? But it gets so that Alexich decides not to be the top laner. They bring in JWoww, this rising talent who actually obviously has played at DreamHack Summer with Freeze, and they're liking the way that's going, but they can't get JWoww out of his contract with, I think it was TCM Gaming at the time. So instead, Froggen decides we're going to bring in Wicked. And when he brings in Wicked, Edward says, I don't want to play with this team. I don't want to play with Wicked. So with Edward gone, Freeze leaves because he's been duoing with Edward. This is ideal for him. And over in NIP, there's been more roster moves. Bjergsen has left to go to NA and join TSM. But in his stead, he's managed to get some of the Lemon Dogs players who finished 1st place in the regular part of the split to join the team. Overcomes Zoro Zero, Nuke Duck, and Mithy. 3 of the best players at their role in Europe who've just been to Worlds. Now, in this team, Mithy, former support of Freeze, when he was in Heimerdinger Colossi, has a choice. Who does he want as his AD carry? He can have Tabs, his AD carry from Lemon Dogs, who just switched from mid to AD carry, that split, or he can have Freeze. He chooses Freeze, someone he's known better. So Freeze gets to join NIP, no problem, right? We're just going to win this promotion match, easy, with a #1 pick, with a #1 seed in the promotion series. We'll get to pick who we play. Everything seems like it's going to be fine. So this stacked-looking roster goes to the IEM Cologne tournament and plays in the amateur tournament, because technically they're relegated at the moment. In the amateur tournament, they get to the final, but they play against Copenhagen Wolves there. And Copenhagen Wolves now doesn't have Reckless, but they have Forgiven. And this team plays very well, wins the tournament, and as a result, it's made life even easier, right, for the NIP guys. Now they can say, hey, well, we're definitely going to not pick Copenhagen Wolves. So they have two choices now. They can pick Super Hot Crew, a bunch of fairly weak players, or they can pick KMT, team that's okay of Polish players, but hasn't shown anything special yet. They decide to pick KMT because their team, NIP's team, is so good. They think, right, no problem, we're going to get in anyway. So we'll beat this KMT team, and we'll pick KMT even though we think Super Hot Crew's worse, because Super Hot Crew are some friends of ours, so hopefully they can play SK, who've lost a bunch of their players and got kind of a discount roster, and hopefully Super Hot Crew can beat SK, we can beat KMT, we all get into LCS, haha, we all have a laugh afterwards, no problem, right? Problem is, they come into the series, game 1, KMT pull out this Kale pick no one's ever seen mid, and win the game. Game 2, everyone in the team's like, should we ban Kale? Let's get rid of it. NukeDuck's like, no need to ban Kale. Like, that wasn't what decided the game. Kale proceeds to then win game 2. Now the team's up 2-0, even though Freezer played pretty well in game 2. They go ahead and clean sweep it, even though they finally banned Kale for the third one. KMT gets into the series, 3-0. What's the problem? They obviously go on to become Roccat, and at one point in time be the best EU split team in the middle of the split. Then at the end of the split, they still finished 3rd place overall. Strong team overall. You could have never known how strong they would be. And so the irony is they ended up picking easily the strongest, well, one of the strong, well, actually, yeah, the strongest team when you consider that Copenhagen Wolves didn't turn out to be monsters once the actual season started. Now, that's not over though. There's still a chance. Lemon Dogs gets disqualified for not submitting a roster on time. So there's a tourney held for the last spot. So even though they've failed to kill KMT, NIP can just win this last spot in a tournament that's featuring Super Hot Crew, who aren't very good, and MYM, who are positively terrible. But they go to play the online match, and Zoro can't download the client in time. So they get DQ'd from this tournament. Super Hot Crew just plays MYM, wins that last slot, and gets into LCS. So with a super stacked lineup that could have done a lot of damage in LCS, Freeze doesn't get into LCS, despite having 2 different chances to, and against teams that both times he's heavily favoured to beat. It's okay though. With this sicker team, they're all going to stick together. No problem. We're going to win Challenger, right? Problem is, Hookbot's one of the main people who had problems during the KMT series. So Hookbot leaves their team, and over the next split, they make the bizarre decision, because there aren't many good junglers in Europe, they say, of continually using in online matches underage junglers who can't compete at the LAN tournaments, and doing very well with them, and bodying in practice and bodying in online matches, and then every time they have to come to LAN, they use stand-ins, and they do badly on LAN. And so they come to, in terms of like the Challenger finals, etc., then they come to the promos. It's okay though, because they're facing Millennium, and Millennium's been really up and down over the spring split. In fact, no, actually spring split was when they were really terrible. Millennium had been really bad all spring split long. They'd been really struggling. They'd never shown anything of value. They'd never made an upturn at any real point in time. Game 1, 33 minutes. Freeze's guys wreck them completely. NukeDuck's going ham. It's like, no problem. We've got this series. Every game from then on out is 50 minutes or longer. His team chokes mega bad. Let the other team playing scaling champions like Rise just scale through the fucking roof, go super late game, make no decisive shot calls, and lose every game in the most annoying fashion possible. Despite the fact they have fantastic players like Zoro, NukeDuck's still very good, Mithy's still a very good player, Freeze is still good, and they don't get into LCS for the second time. You know what? It's not over though. A second time, a really strong team's being put together, and Freeze is going to get his shot. So now, NiP puts together its own super team again. This time it gets Alex Ich, comes over and joins, and he wants to play as top laner. NukeDuck's still there, because Zoro's quit already. They bring in Ku, this very strong jungler, because now he's going to be of age at the end of this split, so they bring him in as the full-time jungler. Very highly touted to be like a future jungle star. And they've still got Mithy. And so at this point in time, initially they try out Forgiven, who'd been on Copenhagen Wolves. Very strong AD carry that split. But for whatever reason, they decide to go against him. Mithy chooses instead, we'll bring in Freeze again. So he's got his chance now on another super team, but this time with a real jungler. So in we come. Surely this time we're going to get in, boys. Now, in this team, Despite having all their problems fixed, they've got a sick jungler now. Nuke Duck and Mithy get banned by Riot. So now you've just your star support, star mid laner. It's okay, they take in Power of Evil, this rising star mid laner with interesting style. They go to the DreamHack LAN, they win it. For whatever reason, they decide right after to replace Power of Evil with Alex Ich, role swapping back to mid, and they take Kabashard in eventually as their top laner. Now Kabashard will go on to be a monster one day. Top lane carry. Problem is, not yet. It'll be in the following year. Alex Ich struggles at mid, and Freeze's support with Mithy gone becomes Voidal, the guy who was the support of Gambit when they went to Season 3 Worlds and was considered to be the worst player in that team. Well, now there's only one carry threat on the map, that's Freeze, and his support isn't that strong. So, it's not going that well. It's okay though, right? Because at least we've still got a chance against some of these weaker teams in the Challenger Series playoffs. Except Ku, Jungle Star, due to internal differences, quits right before the Challenger playoff starts. Now, bringing in a not very good player, the team loses to SK Prime in the semi-finals. They play the third place match to still see if they can get the final spot. They lose to Unicorns of Love there. So Alex Ich, one of the most clutch players in history, an amazing player in elimination type games, loses to Fox and Power of Evil, who at the time we don't know are going to end up being good mid laners the next split. At the time we're just thinking, holy shit, Alex Ich has gone completely to shit. So there's another star lineup that's completely combusted and gone completely to shit, this time without even having the players at the end of the split. It's okay though. Freeze gets to get back into LCS without qualifying. He joins Copenhagen Wolves, who had requalified themselves by beating Febervan's H2K. Now, he's put back with Unlimited, someone he has some history with from when he played with him back in Sunrise and Jeans, and he's back with Youngbuck. So he's back with some old players he knows. Now the team, he's having a really strong season and now he's back in LCS. He's hard carrying on Callista. He's hard carrying on Draven. He's having some sick games on Graves. He's playing Caitlyn pretty well. He's got a strong champion pool. Not only that, he's got other threats. Soren is playing really well early on, except towards the end of the split, Thorin starts to cool off a bit, keeps playing Ari and losing on it. Doesn't matter though, team makes the playoffs. Unfortunately, they have to play H2K, one of the better macro teams in the league. H2K clean sweeps them in the playoffs. It's okay though, right? Yeah, things were alright. We can improve for next split, we can keep going. Here's the thing, Freeze gets an offer to join a team. Forgiven's been kicked out of SK or left, whichever you want to believe. They were a top 4 team at the end of the playoffs. They'd been the #1 team with a 15-3 record in the regular split, and they'd been based around the star AD carry. Sounds like a dream for Freeze to join up with this team, right? Better team overall. Chance to go to Worlds. He chooses not to because they aren't really getting down on one knee, courting him properly, begging him like, baby, I need you. So as a result, out of spite, he says, I'm not going to join them then. I won't join them. I won't lower myself to that level. Stays with Copenhagen Wolves. Except Copenhagen Wolves don't improve. Youngbuck and Soren gradually start to go to shit. Freeze is still doing his best to hard carry. Then, a plan gets leaked. It turns out behind the scenes, good news, right? Dentist is making work. He knows that Freeze is a sick one-man carry. He knows we have to improve the team for next year. So he's making moves behind the scenes. He's getting Deficio. He's like, come back next year. Don't be a caster. Come and work at Copenhagen Wolves with me. We'll get all these sick players. They're planning all these different good players that they can get into the team. Only problem is, someone hacks Dentist, it all gets leaked, and when it all comes out in public, Riot fucks up Deficio, Riot fucks up Dentist, and even worse, now all the Copenhagen Wolves players resent them because they found out this plan was to get Freeze more money by getting him most of the money from this Azubu streaming deal to prevent him from wanting to leave. So what would have been a good deal for Freeze ends up fucking him over in terms of his team. Youngbuck stops caring, he starts going to shit. He was already playing fairly badly, but it seems like he's a bit tilted by all this information. It's okay though. They get a lifeline. Shook has come back to LCS. He's been kicked out of Elements. They bring him in for this split towards the end. They bring in Shooks for Airwax, who had been struggling. Shook's a strong jungler. Maybe now we can get some pressure going. Problem is, Unlimited and Youngbuck leave. They don't like the way shit's going. In come Je Suis Cass as support and Lenny as top lane. Both are dog shit. Spoiler. Now, Freeze is still hard carrying like a motherfucker. He has a game on Caitlyn where he beats H2K, one of the better teams in the league, goes 14-0-4, bodies it single-handedly. But, doesn't matter, team finishes 10th place, 4 wins, and that's it. And because of all the problem with the stuff being leaked, they can't make the super team plan that they had. It's okay though. Freeze is now a hot commodity. People have seen how strong he is. They know he's going to leave. He gets a bunch of offers. He chooses Renegades. because they have Alex Ich, someone who he's seen, it seems like has come back to form in Challenger and NA. They've got Crumbs, veteran player from LCS, always been a decent jungler in NA LCS, and he's getting good money. This is his chance to get his best payout, his best salary of his career, and he's going to go to NA. NA doesn't have that many sick AD carries. He's going to have a chance to perform really well, right? He does. He comes into the spring split. He's got this player who in Challenger, his support player, Ramelia, has been hyped as like, oh, really good mechanics, really like flashy plays. Problem is, turns out to be a one-trick pony on Thresh and have a few okay games on Morgana. Turns out to tilt on stage, have massive nerve issues, essentially mentally collapse and have to leave the team. Okay, fair enough, we get a replacement. Then the top laner starts going to shit. We start messing around with a replacement there. Alex Ich is struggling over the first few weeks. During this whole time, Freeze better than ever. Hard carrying, straight up bodying teams early on. His team's getting leads in many of these games. They're losing every game, basically. He is stuck back in hell. So you can see, at all points of his career, it's never that bad. Either something really positive starts, or he gets a really good teammate, or he's in a good position to succeed, or his team looks like they're going to build on the success from last year, and it always collapses, it always goes bad, and he always ends up back in the scenario where his team might be fighting for relegations again for something like the third time in his career out of 7 possible splits that he could have played in. This is someone who should have been in the semi-finals of a playoffs. This is someone who on the right team could have been a champion of LCS. This is someone who plays very well even when his team plays very poorly, and has always had a solid champion pool of a couple of meta picks and a couple of classic picks that he could always work. Draven and Caitlyn classic picks, always picking the meta things though. Varus, later on obviously he's going with stuff like Lucian, then he's with Kalista now. He's someone where he can always adapt, always plays at least to a good level, pretty consistent player, but has never had success and has had a very cursed career. And you have to feel for the guy. It just feels very sad, especially when you consider, like I said, some of the great teammates he's played with all went on to better things. Even some of the lesser teammates he's had have had ultimately better careers than him. So we hope it turns around. We hope he gets a better career. But right now, it's hard to see how it's going to happen. And it seems like the Freeze curse will continue.